What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Avoiding Relegation podcast. Yes, we took a week off. You can blame me for that. I was definitely, I got back to work last week after dealing with an arm injury for some time, so it was weird getting back, going to work and everything. My name is Randy Bruce. I'm one of your hosts, and I am joined here by my best friend in the entire world. Yeah, it is cheesy as hell, but thank God he's doing this with me. Christian, how are you doing today, man?
I'm doing good. I'm excited to dive into these transfers, what we're talking about today, and then dive into the FPL, which opened up, was it yesterday?
Yeah, I think yesterday or 2 days ago. I couldn't remember.
The second it opened up, I was like, okay, we got to jump on this. Like this has to be something we need to jump on for our podcast. So
You're wearing your Dortmund jersey today.
I
I
am.
feel like this needs to be a thing. Christian needs to wear a different jersey every single episode.
I mean, I got a closet full of them, so we can.
You're gonna run out eventually.
Nah, I'll just keep buying them.
So you went with Dortmund. Your boys are in the news for transfers.
Yes,
who'd they get
Sebastian
again?
Haller.
Okay. You guys have like 7 transfers that you've done this offseason. It's like a retooling.
Well,
They're using that Holland money.
I would say the Holland money. Haller's a big signing for them. He'll be coming as striker. He was really good for Ajax, so they definitely needed that.
We are just a month away, guys, from the Premier League season. It doesn't even feel like that's what I love about football is the off seasons are like so small. Go check us out.
Even during the off season, we got stuff going on and around the world, so there's always something going on.
And I mean, I don't know how big of an MLS fan Christian is, but it is in our backyard, and I am an MLS fan. So we still got MLS soccer to keep us occupied as well. Before we get into things, go check us out on our Instagram at Reality Randy. There's a lot of content coming out. I just did a Survivor podcast for Survivor South Africa. So if you're into Survivor, go check that out. And then we also started a new podcast called Relax Cinema on Sundays, where we just talk movies and TV shows, and there's always something to talk about there. So go check out all that.
Do you have a co-host on that one?
I do not. Are you putting in an application?
No.
Oh, well, that's unfortunate.
Maybe sometimes if you talk about a movie that I really enjoyed, but we'll see.
Yeah, it's about a 30-minute episode. That, along with the Survivor South Africa breakdown, is only available to premium members. So it is 99 cents a month, just 99 cents, less than a chocolate bar. Go check it out. Go join our premium side. So, all right, are you ready to get into what everyone actually came for, Christian? And that's talking the Premier League.
Yeah, I'm ready.
We got a lot to talk about. So what we're going to start off, Christian, talking about 2 transfers that have really stuck out to us. And there's been some big ones this offseason.
Mm-hmm. You want to take yours?
I mean, I can. You want me to go mine first? Mine's probably not as entertaining as yours. Being a Liverpool supporter, I show a little favoritism. I got to talk about my boy, Mo Salah, renewing his contract. I believe it's a 3-year deal. It was the biggest talk around the club. There was this shadow kind of over the club. Will Mo Salah sign back? Will he go somewhere else? We just saw Sadio Mane leave for Bayern Munich. Roberto Firmino's kind of phasing out of the club. It's kind of this new. We know Klopp only has 2 or 3 years left before he leaves. So it's kind of like a reinvention of Liverpool in a way, but they still want to compete with Man City for the title. So there was this black cloud of whether Mo Salah would sign back. And they finally got the deal done. Mo Salah, 3-year deal to remain at Liverpool. Christian, this is a huge contract signing for Liverpool to keep their main man around.
I was going to say, you say it's not nearly as exciting, but I think that as Liverpool fans, you guys are probably stoked considering it's finally a shimmering of light at the end of the dark tunnel. A lot of players leaving and rumored to leave. Sadio Mane, and it definitely was a good sign for you guys moving forward.
What does this do for Liverpool moving forward? Like, do you think I mean, we've seen some of the signings. We're going to get into some of the signings. Their big one was Diaz, obviously, but moving forward, like I think they should still be, especially this season and possibly next season as well. They should still be able to be right up there with the big boys in Manchester City.
Well, yeah, I think losing Sadio Mane is going to be a blow, especially early in the year. That's a big chemistry drop off there. You're going to have to put some new people into the lineup, kind of test out, figure out where it's going to work better. That's why I still have City winning the whole thing, because they still have that core held together. And early in the season is very important. And I think that's where Liverpool might struggle. Luckily for them, they start off with Fulham, the newly promoted side. So
Which
I think
I
I
mean
think
they
they'll be
naturally
fine.
do.
Yeah, I think they'll be fine. Like, and we got Remy crying in the background.
Oh, Remy. Hey, everyone loves Remy. If you're listening to this and not watching the YouTube version of the show, it is Christian's dog, Remy. She is so sweet. But yeah, I'm excited. It's huge news for Liverpool, like you said, just to have that um presence up front and the caliber of player Mo Salah is. I still believe he's top 5 player in the world. And he is, like him or hate him, he is just unbelievable when it comes to his game. And that's good for Liverpool. They need players to stick around. I mean, not saying players just come and leave, but I'm saying they're core players. Like I said, they're kind of rotating some of these players that we've had over the past couple of years out. And it's good to have Mo Salah locked down for 3 more years. And we'll see where he goes from there.
At the end of the day, it truly is an end of an era for Liverpool. And I just think it'll be nice to not lose everyone all at once. So.
The era that got me into the club. Like, you guys could say, oh, fake fans. No, we just weren't watching. And then I fell in love with them in that Real Madrid game, the first Champions League final they did with them. And that's I shouldn't say the first, but that's when I fell in love with them. And yeah, it's like you said, end of an era. Seeing, I remember Firmino, Mane, Salah. That was the top 3, and we're just kind of, that's no more. Like I said, Firmino's kind of being phased out of the club. We'll have to wait and see, what his role is moving forward. But go ahead and give us what your transfer is that stuck out in your opinion.
So I told you something different before we came on, but I'm actually gonna go with Raheem Sterling to Chelsea.
Okay.
That was announced today. That it's not necessarily technically official. It's unofficially official, but the two sides have agreed to terms, and I think that is definitely interesting because Chelsea needed that extra oomph going into the season, and I think Raheem Sterling will bring goals. So I think that could be a big signing for them.
Do we know how much the fee was?
Like I said, it's unofficially official. So I don't think that the two teams per se have agreed to terms, but necessarily Chelsea and Sterling themselves have agreed to terms. So the ball is rolling.
Where does say the ball gets through and Raheem Sterling ends up on this team? Where does that put him with Chelsea's? I mean, they've got a toy box of wingers over there at Chelsea.
Yeah, well, I mean, the same could have been said about Liverpool, a year or two ago. I feel we're moving into an age where wingers are a dime a dozen, but you want the better ones. You want world class wingers, and I think they got them. The hard part for Tuchel is going to be deciding which toys does he want to roll out for his play dates.
Man, I can't stand Raheem Sterling and everything he does to Liverpool and all that, but he is definitely, I think, if he gets on this Chelsea side, I think he's an every match starter, in my opinion. I don't think besides the games that you rest him, I don't think you put Raheem Sterling on the bench. I'm trying to think who takes a back seat, and it has to be Pulisic, right? It's got to be. It's going to be.
I think, given he stays, I think it's going to be good for Pulisic. I think he's been really well off the bench for Chelsea. In the games that he started, he's had lower grades. Coming off the bench, he's had better grades. I think it'll be good for him, and it'll be good for the club. Now, they could move him, because, I mean, there's rumors of multiple wingers leaving. Ziyech. For some reason, there was some silly rumor of Mason Mount out of the club. That was silly. There's no chance of that happening. and then obviously Pulisic to Juventus. But I don't think that he's leaving. I think he'll stay at least for the season, and I think he'll play off the bench.
So, I mean, I like how you put that. It would be good. I mean, Pulisic does really well as kind of like a super sub. Bring him on in the 60th, 70th minute. He can really contribute. I mean, he'll get you goals. He'll get you more assists than goals. But yeah, I just think if Raheem Sterling's on the squad, it obviously makes Chelsea better. You do not add Raheem Sterling to a squad.
Just imagine chasing Raheem Sterling and Kai Havertz around for 70 minutes, and then they're like, all right, now you're tired. Here's Christian Pulisic.
It's super speedy. I mean, this obviously just helps Chelsea out. This does not put Chelsea in any position to like, it's not what's the word I'm looking for? It's not kind of just like the side move that keeps them where they're at. It's obviously going to add to the club and a good signing for them. So let's get into, I wrote down before we hopped on here, I wrote down a bunch of transfers, and Christian and I are going to give you our opinions on each one. Some of them are going to be longer than others, depending on how well we know the players. But we got to start off with one that our friend Bailey is very excited about. We have this like very interesting friend group. We all have favorite teams: Liverpool, Chelsea, Manchester United, Tottenham, Everton. It's all over the place with our friend group. But our friend Bailey is very excited. They just announced their first signing under the, what's his name? Ten Hag era.
Ten Hag, yeah.
Yeah. So they just announced their first signing, Tyrell Malacia from, I can never pronounce this team's name. Feyenoord, for 15 mil. So Christian, I'll let you go first. You're going to know more about this guy than I do. I think it's a decent signing for United. I just can't take any United signing seriously because we've seen what's happened the past couple of years where they come in and lay a giant egg.
First of all, I'm going to do a little rant here because I have said this multiple times amongst our friend group. I think Ten Hag is going about this rebuild completely wrong. I don't think that the Dutch players are the way of the future. And I don't think that him mainly scouting in his little niche area that he did for Ajax is going to work in the Prem. Now, Malacia had big, massive club offers coming at him, and they stole him from Lyon. So I don't know much about him per se as a player, but I know that he's got the pedigree, and he could be a good young fullback for them. So 15 mil is not a hefty price. I don't see anything wrong with it.
Is it really going to give United what they need though in that fullback position?
Here's the thing. United's not playing Champions League football. They're not drawing the big names. You got to do something, and signing a young fullback with potential. It can't be. You can't go wrong with signing young players with potential in the spot they're at now. I think Man United needs to build with youth, and I think it's a fine signing for them.
I mean, I like this move. It's a good move. And like you said, nothing wrong with adding a promising young player to the squad. My only problem is they need to make a big signing. And we're a month out. They still got plenty of time. In my opinion, I mean, Ronaldo wants out. Doesn't mean they're going to give him what he wants.
He did.
You don't think he does anymore?
I'm pretty sure I read that he's staying for the season.
I mean, that might be true, but still, like, you got to show Ronaldo you're going to be winning. And I think that's what Cristiano wants to see. And right now, this move is not, hey, Ronaldo, we're going in the right direction. It's kind of as you've stated multiple times, it's a rebuild. It is, hey, we're going to completely reshape this club, which does need to happen. You heard my Manchester United rant. It does need to happen. I just don't know how Cristiano sees this.
No, I agree. But here's my thing. Where I don't agree is I don't think they need to prove to Ronaldo anything. I think that they need to stick to what they need to do. And if Ronaldo doesn't like it, he's got all the power to go somewhere else. But this is what they need to do as a club is build with their youth because they're not drawing the names that they used to draw.
No. I mean, Chris and I have talked about this a lot. And all you Manchester United fans, you are not going to enjoy hearing this. You cannot say we're Manchester United. We're the most illustrious club in Europe. And it's just not buying players anymore. They don't care. There's been multiple players. I will say this. I didn't write it down. So sorry, Christian. I am going to kind of catch you off guard here. Christian Eriksen, who apparently rumored said no at first. No, I don't want to go there. Now, the rumor is he has agreed to personal terms, much like Raheem Sterling has with the team, which I think that would be a huge pickup for Manchester United.
I think Eriksen's a good player. He's 28, 29 years old. He was playing for Brentford last year, was a key piece. But is signing a 29-year-old from Brentford really what we're saying is a big, massive Manchester United signing nowadays? That sounds like something that Everton does. It doesn't sound like a Manchester United top 6 team. So while he is a great player and in his time arguably world class, he's not what he once was, and I would not consider that a massive signing.
Definitely Manchester United needs to go the rebuild route, and this is a move that gets them started here. So the next move I want to bring up is not one that everyone watching this, every Premier League fan is going to go, ooh, like it's one.
But our local American and what do you call it? Our friend group will definitely understand it. It's one that hits close to home.
Go ahead, Christian. Break the news. You know what I'm talking about here for $6.3 million.
I mean, it's something that's been rumored all really second half of the season. Is Matt Turner moving from New England to Arsenal? Probably be their third goalkeeper, maybe their second if he's lucky. I'm saying third, but it's cool to see our top man head over there. But it does have World Cup implications.
What can you're so much better at describing players, so I'm going to let you do this too. What can if people are watching this from Europe or another country, you know, they might not have really watched, or maybe Arsenal fans, they might not have really watched Matt Turner. What can they expect from this goalkeeper? Say he does play in some games here and there.
Well, I'm just going to start off with I think Matt Turner made a mistake. I think going to Arsenal, especially at this time in his career, was a mistake because, yeah, he's going to get the big bucks. He's going to get paid. He's going to be along for an interesting ride, but he's not going to get playing time unless he maybe shows up in a cup game. He made the Zach Steffen mistake, but in the same respect, Matt Turner has been huge to the U.S. national team in this last year or two. He's won multiple trophies for us and playing between the sticks. Playing at New England, he was arguably top 3 goalkeeper every year. He's got talent, and I think as he fits in as a third string Premier League goalkeeper.
I mean, you're getting a good goalkeeper. If he's your third string, you should be overjoyed. He is a good goalkeeper. I mean, whether you say he's an American or, you know, there's this talk that Americans can't play football, which I think at this point we have shown we can. And Matt Turner is a good goalkeeper who should slot in. I hope he gets loaned out because, like you said, this has huge World Cup implications. Berhalter has said for the men's national team that he wants people who are match ready. He doesn't care how good you are or if you are on paper the best. He wants people who are playing regularly. And as of, you know, a couple of weeks ago, that was going to be Sean Johnson, who's probably the 4th best goalkeeper we have. But he was going to play in the World Cup because he'd be the only one playing. Now that's kind of changed with Horvath going to Luton Town and who am I missing? Steffen going to Middlesbrough. Yeah, so it's changed, but they're making those moves to get playing time because Berhalter has said, if you want to play in the World Cup, you got to be playing on a regular basis. And like you said, could be the worst timing for Matt Turner because if he stayed at New England for another year, he very much could have been our starting goalkeeper at the World Cup.
I think he was in line. He was going to be the goalkeeper. Moving to Arsenal definitely put a damper in that. And I was going to use this to branch off and talk about Steffen because I think Steffen to Middlesbrough almost locks him in as our World Cup keeper.
I would agree with that. I think he does need the show that he's got because if he's playing at the same time as Sean Johnson has shown he's been a great goalkeeper. Now he's been giving up goals recently
when you get 4 goals to Cincinnati.
He's been giving up and 2 goals to Atlanta. He's been giving up quite a bit of goals recently, so it doesn't look great on Sean Johnson. But they're going through a coaching carousel and everything over there. That's besides the point. But I do agree with you that I think Stefan, as long as he goes there and he proves he is still a really good goalkeeper at the top of his game, I think that spot is his for the taking.
Yes, I agree.
Next up, let's move on to a guy that we're not going to spend a lot of time talking about it because, frankly, just being honest with you, we don't know much about him. But he's coming from Sporting CP, João Palhinha, 20 mil going to Fulham. All I got to say about this, Christian, is this is obviously, we're going to get to him a little bit later too. This is obviously Fabio Carvajal's replacement. Bringing him in from Sporting CP, Fulham needed to fill that central midfield position, and they got their guy here. And that's all I can say. I really don't know anything else about his game.
I'm not too educated on Palhinha. I know that he's probably not going to be Carvalho's replacement because he's more of a defensive-minded midfielder.
Okay.
He's 26 years old, and he is a Portuguese just like Carvalhal. I don't know what they do at that attacking mid, but this just strikes me more as a defensive move.
It seems like that's the last position that Fulham is looking for, is that attacking midfield position that Carvajal left behind. If you want our full thoughts on what this means for Fulham and how good we think Fulham's going to do in their year in the Prem, I guess this is a great time to say, go check out our first episode that we did. Christian and I ranked all 20 teams, did our early predictions on where we think they're going to finish. That is all going to change based off some of these signings that we've seen here, and we'll do another video later on. But moving on here, this is a huge one. Coming from Leeds United for 49 mil, Calvin Phillips has completed his move to Manchester City. This is a guy we can talk on, Christian. We know a lot about Calvin Phillips, and we know a lot about the big dogs, Manchester City. Is this the right move for him? Because honestly, I don't think there's any way Calvin Phillips will make it into the starting 11 for this club.
It's going to be tough. He's been very good for the national team. I think that's kind of where he kind of burst onto the scene. At Leeds, he's been pretty good as well. I think that he definitely gets playing time. Maybe down the line more so as a starting 11 guy. Right now, I think that's held down by Rodri. I think it's a good signing depth-wise, but that's how I feel for right now. I think Calvin Phillips is a very good player, and down the line, he will be a starting 11 guy, but right now, he's probably a sub.
I forgot to write this down when we were talking about the transfers, but we could branch off of this, and great haul for Leeds to get 49 mil for Calvin Phillips. That's a good transfer budget fund right there. And they've now turned around with Jesse Marsh in charge. He took over late last season. And kind of like this American Revolution, we see a couple of our boys heading over there. Brendan Aaronson's coming into Leeds. And then they just announced, or I don't know if they've actually announced it, but Tyler Adams has completed his move from my favorite Bundesliga team, RB Leipzig. So
Tyler Adams, much like Raheem Sterling, from what I understand, is the club and player have agreed to terms, but they haven't really club to club had agreement yet, from what I understand.
So the rumor is Tyler Adams, but Brendan Aronson has completed his move. So they've kind of taken this money that Calvin Phillips got him and have turned this into a couple players that Jesse Marsh is familiar with.
Brendan Aronson is, I think, where is he playing? Salzburg?
Yes, I believe so. Yes.
He's a guy he was really well in MLS, but he's taken massive steps forward with the national team. He's been starting. He's playing really well. He could crack into that team, especially with the players they're selling.
You think? I think Tyler Adams is a shoo-in for that team. I love Tyler Adams. How you feel? I mean, I love Brendan Aronson too, but watching Tyler Adams at Leipzig, this is a player who's ready. He can get into the starting 11 and he can provide you good central defensive midfield presence. And
I'm actually interested in that. Do you think that they play him at the defensive mid and takes over the Calvin Phillips role? Or does he kind of take over for Eiling and kind of play a right wing back position? Because he can do that as well.
I expect them to play him at right wing back. Personally, he's been known to do that at Leipzig. I think I think he's better in that central defensive midfield position. Because if you put him on the right back position, he's not a defender. So you leave a hole open. He can defend, like every player can defend. Every player can get in front of the ball. But you're looking at it, he's going to kind of lack on the defensive end. So I don't like when teams put him in that defensive position. But he is a great wing back if you're looking at an attacking sense. He can get the ball in to the penalty area. He's great at crossing. He's going to give you that speed that you need down that right-hand side. I would just much rather have him in the midfield as a central defensive midfielder who can kind of move up with the attackers personally. That's how I see him.
Yeah, it'll be interesting for sure to see what they do.
So moving on here, we're going to move on to probably the biggest transfer thus far, honestly, in my opinion, until the Raheem Sterling one maybe gets announced. But Gabriel Jesus, 52.2 mil from Manchester City. He spent years playing the backup to Sergio Aguero, and now he is moving to Arsenal. Christian, we were talking about this yesterday and what this means for Gabriel Jesus. This is his chance to prove it. You now are the attacking 9. Because I was saying yesterday when we were talking, for me, he never really proved it at City. Every time he got on the team, yeah, he can score goals, but on a consistent level, I never saw it. This is his opportunity at Arsenal, and this is a good move for Arsenal.
Yeah. Massive upgrade from Nkita. I think that Gabriel Jesus is going to be a stud. I think he's a stud player. I think that this is going to be a massive sign for Arsenal. I think that this definitely pushes him up the rankings a little bit. Yeah, I don't think there's much to say here because I feel like a lot of people are going to agree to this.
He's 28, 29 now?
Jesus?
Yeah, is he younger than that?
I think he's younger than that.
I should have wrote it down. Let's see. Let me look it up real quick. I thought he was like 27 or something. I could be way wrong. Jesus, 25. So yeah, I was way wrong. Okay, so he's only 25 years old. I mean, Arsenal has a guy they should be able to lock down for years to come.
Yeah, I'm very sad to see him in Arsenal because I love Gabriel Jesus, but
don't like Arsenal.
Hate Arsenal. So
next up, we have talking about a Liverpool transfer. Fabio Carvajal, 5.9 mil from Fulham. We talked about this a little bit earlier. This is a good pickup for Liverpool.
It's a steal.
They need stuff in that midfield or players in that midfield area, especially after, some of the players have kind of lagged behind a little bit. Like Oxlade-Chamberlain is still there. A lot of players are like, why do we still have him? And that midfield area, Keita, there's been some questions about whether he's going to say we got rid of Minamino. Does he break the starting 11? I don't think so. I personally think the starters in the midfield are going to be Thiago, Fabinho, and Henderson. But if you're looking at Fabio Carvajal as a player to come in when Henderson, who's getting up there in age, needs a break, or Thiago, who is majorly injury prone, needs a break, I can't complain about Carvajal coming into that midfield. But I'm interested because Jurgen Klopp and the people over at Liverpool Football Club are very high on Curtis Jones, and he's got an argument. Could he be a sub there? It's going to have to, I'm interested to see how he fits into this team.
Well, Carvajal is more of an attacking option, whereas Curtis Jones is more so the CM role. Carvajal is going to be more of a cam, could probably play some wing. I think that.
But then you have Harvey Elliott as well. Sorry to throw that out there.
I think someone needs to lock Jurgen Klopp up for this thief because I think getting Carvajal under 6 mil is just silly. He was a massive role in Fulham's promotion, and Fulham, I mean, if he wanted to leave, they should have got more than 6 mil out of him.
I mean, we've seen this with Liverpool where they bring players in from kind of the lower clubs and they just turn them into superstars. This could be his moment to go to Liverpool, learn under Jurgen Klopp, learn under some of those defensive names that I've said, and just skyrocket. He's still a young player, and he's got plenty of time to, to really become something special over at Liverpool.
I'm really worried for Mitrovic. I think Mitrovic broke records. I think Carvajal could have been a key piece to that. Obviously, you need a guy to set up the guy who's scoring the goals, and they haven't replaced that yet. So we're gonna find out, was Mitrovic that dude in the championship, or was Carvajal really helping in that central mid to allow that to happen?
Before we get to our final big transfer, we already talked about Mo Salah re-signing. I do want to bring up Brendan Johnson re-signing, renewing his contract for Nottingham Forest. Christian, I know you're a big fan of this, Nottingham Forest being able to keep Brendan Johnson.
Being able to re-sign. Now, I will say there are still rumors that Nottingham Forest is expecting a lot of big clubs to come calling for Brendan Johnson. But locking him down for 5 years is massive. Brendan Johnson is born and raised in Nottingham. That's his club. He's from the city. He's grown with the club. They're now back in the Prem. I think that was a shoe-in. You want to see him start on their first time back in 23 years.
Do you think he scores opening day?
I'm pretty sure. I could be wrong, but this might be the first time that Nottingham's been in the Premier League since he was born.
Oh, could you imagine?
He is 21 years old. He was born March 23rd, 2001. So yes, he has never in his lifetime seen Nottingham Forest in the Premier League.
Could you imagine if he scores on their home debut?
Oh, I would almost bet it.
that place would erupt. The final.
Speaking on Nottingham as well, bringing in I'm gonna butcher this name. Awanui.
Oh yeah.
From Union Berlin, former Liverpool product. Have you seen the picture of him standing behind Sadio Mane and Mo Salah?
No, I need to see this picture now.
He's absolutely massive. He's like probably 3 feet taller than them. This dude is a tank. I think that's going to be a big sign for them as well. He had a huge year last year in the Bundesliga. So him next to Brendan Johnson, I think it's going to be a fun attack to see, especially considering we haven't seen him in quite some time.
You expect big things from Nottingham Forest this year, or at least
I think bringing in Dean Henderson is another big one. Bring him in on loan. Last time he was in, he played really well for Sheffield. I mean, he
just got stuck behind De Gea at United.
Which let's not touch on that, because I think that's so silly. I would have kept Dean Henderson, especially in the movement they're about to do. I would have kept Dean Henderson over De Gea, but whatever.
Well, he just got loaned out. They still have him.
But there's a 20 million buy clause on it. So if Nottingham stays up, I would fully expect them to pay 20 mil for Dean Henderson.
The last one we're going to talk about here, and then we're going to go ahead and run through our fantasy Premier League sides. We set them up as soon as it opened up, got some of those deals. There's some good deals that you guys should be on the lookout for. But we got to talk about, or there's another small one as well. Real quick, I'll just mention Jesse Lingard heading to America to speak to 2 unnamed MLS teams. LAFC still has a DP slot open. They got.
I was hoping you'd touch on this, because I have something to say. I think that this is an absolutely imperative signing for the MLS. I think as a league, they need more signings like this to get a guy who is arguably definitely Premier League starting 11 talent, and having a chance to go to an Everton or West Ham, to choose an MLS club over that. A lot of people are saying that he is taking the easy way out, but maybe he's a revolutionary. Maybe he's building something here. And I think people need to quit the slander and just appreciate it for what it is.
Yeah, appreciate the game. Why do we have to hate on leagues around the world? I know you're going to look at us and be like, oh gosh, here they are just defending their league. Try to watch it. Try to watch a season. Yes, the defense is terrible. It's atrocious. But you also see some amazing goals, and there's some great players over here, and it's a growing league. You have to be excited about that. A league that just continues to grow year by year. And I will say if you guys don't know about this report, he's going to America to meet with 2 unnamed teams. And apparently the rumor is there's a very lucrative deal on the line here. And I told Christian this. I said, I think we both expected him to go to West Ham. That West Ham offer is still there. But if he's actually flying to the United States to visit a team, this deal has to be a really good deal. I think my gut feeling is DC United. That would be my guess. But some people are saying it's one of the LA teams. I know if we get Jesse Lingard on the LA Galaxy and we get rid of Diego Costa, Douglas Costa, who is, I would be very happy. I would be a very happy fan.
I hope he goes somewhere other than LA.
That's the only thing that ruins it for Christian. Christian said, and I quote from a text, he will not count LAFC's title if he goes to LAFC.
Yeah, you can't go and get Gareth Bale, have Carlos Vela, and then go buy
Giolini in
Lingard.
The defense.
Just because you can't win a title and then just go and buy one, that's fabricated. That's false. That doesn't count. Massive asterisk.
Our last one that we're getting to here is Richarlison, 58 mil from Everton to Tottenham. We kind of saw this coming when Everton almost got relegated. That was kind of his foot out the door. Is this a big signing for Tottenham? I don't think so.
I feel like going into this season, we've stepped into the upside down. Like, what's going on? Tottenham spending all this money. What is this?
I don't think this. I mean, I think he's going to ride the bench. Right? Is he going to make the 11?
No, he will because they just sold Bergwijn.
That's right. That's right.
Ajax. So he will probably start. But this is a Tottenham signing. Richarlison has a pedigree, and there was a lot of big clubs that wanted him, and he had a couple good seasons. I don't see this being a world-class player. I'm not sold on Richarlison being some amazing talent like everyone thinks he is, and 2, Tottenham does this. When they do spend big, it usually falls out on them. I feel like they're usually better at bringing in these younger players and turning them into studs.
I just know I've never been a fan of Tottenham, and I'm really not a fan of Richarlison. So when I saw this move, I was like, it's a match made in heaven. I can boo him every week. But I do love Son.
Well, you could have done that on Everton anyways.
Yeah, I did. I definitely did. Is there anything before we move on to our FPL teams? Is there anything else you want to say transfer-wise?
I think we pretty much touched it all, even on the stuff that wasn't on the list. We did a good job of branching out and covering everything else.
That's what we want to do here on the show too. You know, we always watch these shows where they talk about the big teams and the big teams only. Yeah, you're not going to get that here. We want to talk about every team. We want to try to touch base on every team. So yeah, those were.
Well, I mean, us being on a different sport, Pacers fans, we kind of have respect for those people who don't
never get to hear
much news on their teams. So.
We'll try to hit every team as best as we can, but let's go ahead and move into this. You have your fantasy Premier League team right in front of you, Christian?
I do.
All right, so we're going to talk to you guys and tell you who we put in our starting 11. We're not going to touch base on bench, but we'll say our starting 11. And this is very early. Stuff could change. And I promise you, I would bet $500,000 million. I don't know, $1,000 million that we change our teams before the season starts. But this is just what we're feeling right now and what we think you guys could look to get on your teams if you're looking for FPL success. So Christian, go ahead and start us off. Who do you have in goal?
So I think there are multiple options you can go at in goal to start the season. Like we were saying, we think that Arsenal has a very nice start to their season. So me personally, I've gone with Aaron Ramsdale. I think that he was very good for me last season when I was playing him, and really not until match week 6 do we see a Manchester United when I'm a little weary. And even still, am I weary about United? Not really.
I agree with Christian. I think Aaron Ramsdale he's not overly expensive. He's a decent deal. I think he's 6.5
5
mil.
mil.
5 mil? Wow.
Yeah, he's the same as Edouard Mendy, which is another steal, I believe.
If you get that's where you can save. Everyone's going to look at Allison or Ederson. Go get Ramsdale. They start off the year. They play all three newly promoted sides in the first 4 weeks. Go get that. So yeah, I also went Ramsdale here. I'll go first. My right back. I mean,
Well,
not even a question. It is Trent Alexander-Arnold. He is always a lock in my team. Not only am I a Liverpool fan, but he's the best right back in the Premier League based off points, FPL points, and everything. I think he's a lock. I think everyone should have Trent Alexander-Arnold in your team. He can score on some occasions, but his assist numbers are great for the right wing back position. And Liverpool is known to get a lot of clean sheets, and that just helps him in the points department too. He's actually my vice captain this week as well for week one.
I also have Alexander Arnold starting out my defense. Uh, week weeks 8 to 11, there's some tough matchups there, but you always want a guy who's going to take free kicks, which is Alexander Arnold. Check. You want a guy who can push up the field and score. Alexander Arnold. Check. You want a guy that's going to be on teams that are going to get a lot of clean sheets. Alexander Arnold. Check. I think this is definitely a shoe in for almost every lineup.
He's 7.5 mil, which might seem high to some people. So if you want to find someone else to, someone else cheaper to get more attacking players that are more expensive, go for it. But I just think he is worth all that 7.5 mil. And I guarantee you, if you don't pick him up now, throughout the season, he's going to go up, Christian. He's going to be 8 mil, 8.2. I mean, I could see him getting to 8.2. Next up, my center back, which Christian was saying doesn't understand why he's really in this position, but Ivan Perisic, the new transfer for Tottenham, go get him, guys, on your team. He's 5.5 mil. He's going to be starting for Tottenham. Tottenham's a lot of things, but they don't do terrible in the clean sheet department either. I think go get Ivan Perisic. He is one of the most biggest steals I found while going through my fantasy team.
I also have Perisic in my lineup. Game week 2, they have a tough one against Chelsea. From there on out, it's not till game week 7 where they play City. I think if you do have them in your lineup, I would recommend a decent bench piece just in case, because again, am not completely sold on Tottenham. On my bench, I have Tariq Lamptey. I think Tariq Lamptey would be he's a good wing back that can push forward with good speed, and he's got Newcastle week 2, would be a good replacement for Perisic.
Go ahead and do the next one, Christian. Who's your next center back?
So next on the defense, I have João Cancelo. I think that, again, this is another guy that a lot of people are having on their team. He has very high ranks in a lot of his statistics. Number 1 in threat. He doesn't have a tough game until week 11 against Liverpool. I think this is a good shoe-in for the start of the season.
I mean, I agree with that. And even looking at the schedule here, you have that Liverpool game match week 11, and then you have Arsenal, Brighton, Leicester, and then Fulham. Like, they don't have that's their toughest stretch pretty much all season. Well, they've got one looking far ahead. Game week 19 to 22 is kind of a tough schedule, but they start the year with West Ham. We'll see what happens that game, but then you have Bournemouth, Newcastle, Crystal Palace, Nottingham Forest, Aston Villa. I mean, this should be a shoe-in for a lot of points, and I agree with you. At a price of 7 mil, if you're willing to, some people look at it, the defense can't get you that many points compared to offense. I disagree. If you spend money on Alexander-Arnold, João Cancelo, they're going to get you points. And Christian, who's your last defender?
So on my last defender here, I'm buying clean sheets. I went with Virgil van Dijk. Also can score off the corner. Same with Alexander Arnold. That week 3, he's got United. That's his first tough matchup. But again, not too worried about United. This is a guy who can score. He gets clean sheets. It's another guy, and he's only 6.5 mil. I think that's a good price for him.
I went with someone who would save me a little money because I spent money on Alexander-Arnold and João Cancelo. Excuse me. And I went with Tyron Mings. I'm a big Tyron Mings fan, and Aston Villa, I expect them to bounce back this year. He's got a great start to the year. He's got Bournemouth, Everton, Crystal Palace, and then West Ham. But then you're going to need a sub for weeks 5 through 7 as he has Arsenal, Manchester City, and Leicester. So, for the first 3 games, I think Mings is going to be great. And then on my bench, I have, I'm going to say his name wrong, Fabian Schär for Newcastle. And around that time that I need to take Mings out, I should be able to play Schär for Newcastle as his schedule gets a little bit friendly. So, so that's my back line. Christian and I agreed on 3 people. The only difference is I have Liverpool players elsewhere in my lineup, so I couldn't have another player like Virgil van Dijk. And so I went with Mings there. But Christian, I really do like your back line. I mean, that's a very solid back line.
So are you running a 4-4-2, 4-4-3? How is your lineup looking?
I am a 4-4-2 at the moment.
Okay,
but
so
I
you're just running the typical generic lineup.
I think as I move on, Antonio has a really tough week 1 matchup with City. Sorry, spoiler. So I think as I move along, it'll turn into a 4-3-3, which is the lineup I usually run. Who do you have in midfield?
In the midfield, I got my captain, Mo Salah, literally number 1 in almost every rank for midfielders except for creativity. But again, that's Mo Salah. Same thing with Alexander-Arnold and Van Dijk. You got the same tough matchup not till week 3, but again, it's Mo Salah. That's my captain. That's who I'm sticking with.
Let's talk about Mo Salah here. 13 mil. He's one of the most expensive, if not the most expensive player in FPL, and he's worth every penny. I told Christian that you either have to have Salah, Son, or Fernandez in your midfield, or you can throw De Bruyne in there as well. And he's literally the number 1 player in fantasy. And you got to spend that 13 mil on him. Get him as your captain because he is going to score. He is a lock to have chances in any matchup, regardless of the matchups. He's going to have chances at goal. He keeps winning the Golden Boot. He gets assists. So I don't see any reason why Mo Salah wouldn't be in anybody's midfield. If you want to not go Mo Salah, though, that's a way to maybe make up some ground because he's also like the most owned fantasy player in FPL. So I'll go ahead and go next, Christian, if you're cool with that. I'm going Philip Coutinho, ex-Liverpool man. Now he came in mid-season last year, and he put up decent numbers. He scored 5 goals, 3 assists, 7 clean sheets, for 83.
Was he at Villa?
Yes, at Aston Villa. He put up 83 points in half a season. I think I really love this pick. He is a little pricey. I will say that he's 7 mil. So a little on the pricey side, but I think it's worth it. I think Aston Villa is going to bounce back this year. Full season under a new coach, or maybe not new manager. Sorry, excuse me. But they have their transfers in now. I expect more from Leon Bailey and some of the other transfers they got last year, Buendia. And I think Philip Coutinho, now that he's going to have a full year at Aston Villa, I expect him to be up there in the running for their top player.
Next in the midfield, I have Martinelli. We're back to Arsenal. Again, they have a nice start to the season, and I think he's going to be a stud, especially at the 6 mil price. I think that's a good pick for you.
Next up, I have Manuel Lanzini, Christian, who you're not a fan of Lanzini.
I like Lanzini as a player. I just was very surprised to see him in your opening day lineup.
He scored 92 points last year, 5 goals scored, 3 assists. So, I mean, if you look at it, Coutinho scored 83 half a season. Lanzini had all season. He scored 92. It is a bit of a risk, and he has a terrible first matchup against City. But then he has Nottingham Forest, Brighton, Aston Villa, and then he has another really tough run. So I'm really looking at him for game week 2 through 4. I think he's a good presence in the midfield, and I think he can get me some points here and there. I do think he's a bit inconsistent, but this was a pure money saving move on my part. You can get him for only 5.5 mil. So that's why I saved some money, get him in my midfield. He can have some games where he goes off. So that's why Lanzini's there. What about you, man?
So on my third midfield spot, I'm running a 4-3-3. So this is my final midfielder and my starting rotation. This one I went back and forth on, and that's definitely a risk. But with the Crystal Palace losing Cam Gallagher, someone's going to have to step up in the midfield. So I'm taking Michael Olise. I think he's destined for a breakout season in the Prem. This is going to be his second year. It was a big signing for them. It's time for him to take the step forward.
I've heard a lot of people expecting big things from him, so I think that's a good pick. How much was he? I bet you saved some money on him too.
He's 5.5 mil.
That's not bad at all. So that's kind of like the Lanzini, because
yeah, and then I also coming off the bench, I got Chukwuemeka, who's another young guy who a lot of people have been talking a lot about. He's been playing really well for the national team. So, and he's only 4.5 mil as another guy off the bench that you could look at.
So I'll finish off the midfield. I'm very excited to watch this player play this season, like extremely excited. Play at the Cottage. He was, other than Mitrovic, a crucial part to Fulham getting called up, and that's Harry Wilson. He's got something to prove. He's been in the Welsh national team. He's been playing extremely well for them. I think he's Premier League ready. I think at the very worst, if Fulham goes back down into the Championship, I think this could be his coming out party, and I could see him getting a deal that takes him to a bigger club. He's 6 mil, so a decent offer, but he's also kind of decently expensive for a newly promoted side. He's got a rough start to the year with Liverpool, and then it's Wolves, Brentford, and then his schedule just gets even tougher. So Fulham has a pretty tough start to the year. But I'm very excited to see what he does. And I have him in my lineup because I could very well see Liverpool has been known to dominate on opening day, but they have also been known to give up an early goal here and there, where the expansion side kind of catches them off guard on match week 1 and scores. And this is a revenge game for Harry Wilson. You know, he was a young kid at Liverpool, and they decided to let him go. And I could see him very well scoring match week 1. So that's why I have him.
And how much was Harry Wilson?
He was 6 mil.
Okay.
So 6 mil, and then on the bench for when those games get tougher, I have Traore from Wolves, but that's kind of a wait and see. He might be someone I take out of my lineup, seeing if they loan him out again or if he's actually going to make it into the starting 11 in this kind of rebuilding Wolves team. So since you have 3 attackers and I only have 2, I'll let you go first on the attacking side.
So my first attacker is a guy making his Premier League debut. It was 11.5 mil coming in at Man City. My vice captain, Erling Haaland. I feel like last year everyone was like, okay, gotta get Lukaku, and it kind of busted. I think that's gonna be how everyone's gonna be with Erling Haaland. So I gotta squeeze him in now because I don't think this is gonna bust. Erling Haaland is a world-class player, and I think he's going to fit in perfectly fine receiving passes from Kevin De Bruyne.
I mean, he's a value right now. If he comes out and he plays as well as he does in the Bundesliga, his market is just going to skyrocket, and it's going to be harder to get him down the road. How much was he again?
He comes in at 11.5, so he's about the same as Mo Salah, I believe. But Mo Salah's 13. So he's 11.5. I think that's the same price as Harry Kane then. So you're basically looking at, do you want Erling Haaland or do you want Harry Kane in this spot? And Harry Kane, while he is a proven player in the league, Erling Haaland is just, he's something else, man. I'm a Dortmund fan, so been watching him play.
Or you could save some money and not go Kane or Haaland and pick up my boy. The first attacker I have, Darwin Nunez, also making his Premier League debut. There's a lot of expectations for Nunez. I am a little bit concerned about him struggling out of the gate because there's been all this talk This is Liverpool's Holland. This is Liverpool's Holland. And, how will he compare to Manchester City's blockbuster move? But he's got a friendly schedule to start off. If he doesn't score against Fulham, I think he'll score. I think he'll score against Crystal Palace. And then you do have that Manchester United game in match week 3. But Darwin Nunez is a lock to be in the opening day squad, and I expect big goals from him. Like I said, Liverpool's been known to score a lot in the first game of the year, especially when they're going up against a newly promoted side. So, I mean, we're talking their score lines have been 5-1, 4-1, 3-0, stuff like that. I'd be shocked if Darwin Nunez is not one of those goals in the opening game. But so that's why I have him in this lineup. And it's a little biased. I've been saying all along, Darwin Nunez will do better than Holland. And I got to back him up here. I have to put him in my team. If I'm going to talk big like that, I got to put him in my squad.
This is where I feel I could definitely use some doctoring up. I have Alexander Mitrovic in this spot. I think that he's a guy who's coming in at only $6.5 million, and if he comes out and plays like he did last year, which obviously we know he's not going to get 40 plus goals, but if he comes out and he scores goals, this is a guy who could definitely see a price increase very easily. Early in the season, he's got a tough road with Liverpool, Arsenal, Tottenham, and Chelsea all in the first 7 game weeks. So this might not be the best pick for me to start. Probably more of a guy you want on your bench for the first 7 to 8 weeks, and then from there on, I think he's going to take off. So I definitely need to do some doctoring and maybe try to get him on my bench, but I definitely want to keep him in my lineup.
So with my final player in my starting 11, I went with someone who I think a lot of people have forgotten about because he was out a lot last year. He only scored 5 goals, 2 assists, and only got 64 points. The previous seasons, he got 165 and 126. I'm bringing him back. He should be fully fit, and that's Dominique Calvert-Lewin. Now, I'm interested to see how the Everton team is this year and how much they bounce back after such a terrible year. But besides playing Chelsea week 1, they play Aston Villa, Nottingham Forest, Brentford, and Leeds. So he's got plenty of games that he can score. And one thing about DCL is it doesn't matter what team he's on. He's a pure scorer. He is going to score you goals. He takes their penalty kicks, which you love to see with attacking players. So any penalties they draw, DCL is going to be the one taking them. He's $8 million, little pricey for someone coming off an injury like that and barely playing at all last year, but I think it's going to be worth it in the long haul. And if I do need to sit him, I have Antonio, who we all fell in love with Antonio. He had 140 points last season, 10 goals, 10 assists. He does everything. So I enjoy having Antonio on my bench. Say I need to sit Darwin or Calvert-Lewin.
Coming in my final attacking spot is a guy who I'm now looking at the fixtures, and I'm very surprised we don't have more players from Chelsea. Kai Havertz is my final spot in my starting 11. They don't have a tough matchup until week 8 against Liverpool, and then from there on, it's not until week 19 against Man City. Ooh. This could be a massive pickup. In any, I might have to get more Chelsea players in my lineup if that's the case. Maybe some
we're changing right after this. That's what's going to happen.
Because that I didn't even really necessarily look at the fixtures on Chelsea, but that's insane. It's very evenly spread out. The second half of the year is definitely got a lot more red matchups, but they're still spread out. I think that Chelsea is definitely a team that you may want to buy into going in.
The thing about FPL, man, research. You might disagree, but I feel like you have to research so much more in FPL than you do in like fantasy football or fantasy basketball. Like it's like, where can you find the deals, and they get more expensive and stuff like that.
And when we're talking fantasy football and fantasy basketball, you kind of got your team, and yes, you can make trades or so on, but like if I have LeBron James on my team, no one else has LeBron James.
Yeah.
So I don't need to decide like, okay, do I need to captain him this week or do I need to captain this guy? In FBL, I have Mo Salah, who is arguably the best fantasy player, but so does 4 million people. So
Yeah.
I got to decide the right time when to captain him while they're captaining other players, and when to use your triple captain. It's definitely more strategic for sure.
But man, I am so excited. That's one thing that I struggled at last year. Last year was our first year playing, and we really only played half a season. But I'm so excited. That's something I need to work on. When to use the triple captain, when to use the wild card, when to use the bench boost, because I feel like that's what determines, how your season's going to go. Use them at the wrong time, and you're screwed.
And this year we're gonna have, from what I understand, they're giving us unlimited transfers during the World Cup.
Ooh, I didn't know that.
So, what is it called when you use your unlimited transfers?
Uh, I can't remember.
Whatever it is, you're
Yeah.
you're gonna want to you're gonna get a free one during the World Cup, from what I understand. So that'll definitely be interesting. A little mid-season switch up.
And we will keep you guys up to date on what moves we're making in our fantasy team. We'll have a little competition. You know what? I think I'll do that. I will create a league. It'll be the Avoiding Relegation Podcast League. Christian and I will join it. We'll be in it. And then you guys can compete right alongside us to see who ends up being the Avoiding Relegation champion. We haven't decided yet if we're just going to do one podcast a week. And cover everything in that podcast, or if we're going to do like a short podcast covering what happened, what took place on the weekend and stuff, and then have another podcast later on in the week for fantasy. We haven't really decided that yet. But man, I'm excited to play. It's going to be fun.
I definitely feel going into this year more prepared than I did last year. So I'm definitely excited. Again, we still have a little bit learning to do. So some people who join in on our league might beat us this time around.
Yeah, you might.
But I'm telling you, this year I'm focusing on learning more. So next year will be the year that I'll come in with a vengeance.
We'll have some type of something small for you guys if you end up winning that league. But yes, make sure to follow us on Instagram at Reality Randy, and we'll post the link there for you guys to join our league. Also, we'll post it on Twitter and stuff, and we'll post it in the description down below. I'll actually make it before uploading this, so it'll be in the description down below as well. So, man, that is all we have for you guys today. Talking transfers, talking our fantasy, our FPL teams. Make sure to hit that like button down below. Please help us grow this thing. We love talking football, soccer, however you guys refer to it as. We love talking about it. We love the Premier League. And then also hit that subscribe button as well. Helps us out a lot. And you'll never miss content, Survivor content, entertainment content. And yes, what you guys are all looking for, Premier League content as well. Hit that notification as well to make sure you never miss an episode. Christian, anything else you want to tell everyone?
Yeah, I do want to add in, as soon as we start getting more and more actual released kits, we're going to put out a podcast or video, whichever, of us reviewing those kits. But we want to wait for almost, if not every team, to release their full kits instead of leaks. So
yeah, we want to make sure we have all the proper representation so we don't have to go back and do it again. But I think that's pretty much it. It was a fun time hanging out, talking about our fantasy leagues and fantasy teams and everything. And I guess we'll catch you guys next week.